And boys, that's our standard card for this week. But now let's get into our game of the week, which will be a fantastic one. And that is the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Oklahoma Sooners. This game is being played at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ABC. It's happening in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma. 7-2, 3-2 in the SEC. Alabama storming through the SEC right now, 8-1, 6-0 in conference play. You've got two fantastic quarterbacks, John Mateer going up against Ty Simpson, both at the top of their game right now. I'm curious to see how we feel like this is going to, affect the playoff picture. Obviously, Oklahoma right now, they are currently 11th. That is fringe. They are not in the picture right now because of obviously the two. You want to be top 10 as an at-large team, obviously, because then you've got the two auto bids right now coming out of the ACC and the American, because both of those teams are out of the top 12 straight up. So they're taking away this bid from Oklahoma right now. So they got to follow up their excellent 33-27 away win versus Tennessee with a win in Tuscaloosa. Alabama, on the other hand, has plenty of cushion. They have been rocking since their season opening loss to Florida State. They've taken down Georgia. They've taken down Vandy. They've taken down Mizzou and Tennessee. South Carolina and LSU were also there. They lost. They're not as good, so it doesn't really matter as much. But Alabama still beat them. We've got two fantastic schools going up against each other. Cole, first up, how do you feel like this one's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think this game matters a lot more for the Sooners than it does Bama, because if Oklahoma somehow wins this game on the road, that's a huge resume builder for them. I think it helps their case to get them. Right now, they're kind of on the fringe, on the bubble, potentially getting in, potentially may not. If they beat Alabama, they're getting in, right? Mm-hmm. If Alabama loses this game, I still think that they get in. They're just not ranked as high as they would have been. But, between this game in Tuscaloosa and you got Georgia and Texas this week, two huge games in the SEC, they're going to have a ton of implications for the college football playoff. We know that Georgia and Texas last year, great game that they played. So these two games are going to be so exciting to watch. How I think this goes, my prediction for game of the week. I mean, Basil, you hit the nail on the head. Alabama's been smooth sailing since that week one loss against Florida State, right? Ty Simpson, he's been consistent throughout the whole year. He's been, solid for the Tide. I think they have found their groove under Kalen DeBoer. Finally. Look, Oklahoma, they stole one against Tennessee a couple weeks ago on the road, but I don't think that's going to happen in Tuscaloosa this week. I think it's a completely different team. I think Oklahoma, they're coming off a bye week. In this case, I think it hurts them. Usually I would say, that's good. It gives you more time to prepare. You're well rested. You don't, have to worry so much about injuries. But I think at this point, I think it actually helps Alabama more because they've been on such a groove. They beat LSU last week at home. I think it allows them to just keep steamrolling, right? And look, Bama, if they win this game, they have the opportunity to just keep climbing, right? They're at 4 right now. They're ranked 4 behind A&M, Indiana, Ohio State. If they win this game, they got Eastern Illinois next week, which should be a blowout. And then you have Auburn for the Iron Bowl. And Auburn, we know they fired Hugh Freeze. They've been having a down year. I think Alabama takes care of them. So if you beat Oklahoma this week at home and you win out over the next 2 weeks, you finish the season at 11-1. You're going to the SEC championship, and you're either playing A&M or potentially Ole Miss, depending on what happens with A&M and Texas later in the year, the last week of the season. But you're going to be playing definitely in the SEC championship if you win the rest of your games. I think they know that. I think if they get to the SEC championship and it is A&M who is ranked in front of them currently and they beat them, they could, not only leapfrog to 3, but could even get into 1 or 2 seeds come college football playoff time. So I think there's a ton of potential there for Alabama. I think they, they're in charge of their destiny for the rest of the year. And I think, the last couple seasons, Alabama has been below where they expect to be. Now they're right back, in the conversation and have the potential to be one of those top teams come college football playoff time. So with all that being said, I think that the Tide take care of the Sooners this week and cover 5.5 at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, what you got here?
Cole had a lot of what I had to say, man. I mean, my only thing that I'd add is think about where we were at with this Alabama team in September, right? And people were calling for Kalen DeBoer's job, right? They were saying how bad he is compared to, there's only one Nick Saban, which is definitely true, right? But I mean, Alabama's come a long way here. They've done everything that they should have done, right? Now they're 8-1 here. I won't repeat any of the schedule, but I'm really impressed with wins against Tennessee. With LSU last week, obviously it was a different circumstance without BK, but yeah, I mean, what a different perspective we have on Bama right now than we did when we were starting this show. I also have had mixed feelings on John Mateer for this whole year, right? Like I know he's been the guy that's kind of like been anointed as this, next, look at this transfer success, right? And I always forget, it was Washington State, not Oregon State, that he came from, but like he just, to me, it's nothing's popping out where I'm like, wow, look at how great this guy is, right? He's been good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's been a solid quarterback for Oklahoma, but he's had no more than one passing touchdown every single game so far this year, except the opener. Granted, he can run, right? And he's been giving that unique other dimension, but that for me is something that Alabama has seen before and can easily take away, right? Like that's my thought on how this thing goes. So I think how that translates literally into this game is they put a little pressure on him early, maybe force him to make some bad decisions, maybe try to take away his run game and force him to pass the football down the field a little bit more and trust your secondary at that point. So yeah, we'll see what happens here, but I'm with Cole. I think while it means a little bit more for the Sooners, Bama's going to come out on top here.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. So obviously we were talking about this is pretty much an elimination game for Oklahoma. Alabama, they're sitting pretty comfortable at the 4th spot. But if they lose this game, they're not out of the playoff picture. I think they'd still be in the top 12 and still have an at-large bid once next week's bracket gets made. But they're not super comfortable with a loss, because that puts them at 6-1, right, in the SEC. Oklahoma could move up to 6-1 this week. Georgia has the potential to move up to 7-1, which would put them ahead of Alabama, even though Bama's got the tiebreaker should they finish with identical records in the SEC. So Alabama still does need to make sure that they come out of this game pretty clean to clinch a spot in the SEC title game. Could we see Ole Miss kind of sneak in there over these next couple of weeks?
I think Ole Miss is in a great position right now, because if you look at their remaining schedule, they only have Florida left and Mississippi State, right? So they only have 2 games left. Yeah. And right now they're sitting at, they're sitting at 4th in the SEC behind Georgia, Alabama, and A&M, right? Mm-hmm. Georgia's got Texas this week. A&M still has to play Texas. So, Texas, they're another team that's fighting to stay in the college football playoff conversation, right? So they got to win these games against both Georgia and A&M, I think, to get in, because they already have 2 losses. So, Ole Miss, if Texas can somehow beat A&M, then I think Ole Miss gets in. I don't know exactly what the tiebreaker is, but I would think that Ole Miss would get in. And so if out of all these teams, I think Ole Miss is in the best position right now.
Yeah. It would be kind of tough. It gets kind of quirky because then Alabama beat Georgia and then Georgia beat Ole Miss, and then Alabama and Ole Miss did not play. So
Right.
it gets a little tricky there, but yeah, very interesting. And I just wanted to point that out because I don't think Alabama fans should kind of kick their feet up yet. You know what I mean? I think,
But I do think if Alabama loses, they still would only have 2 losses, and then the teams with 2 losses, right, would be Oklahoma. So then Oklahoma would have a head-to-head win against Alabama. That helps, right?
Mhm.
But then the other 2 lost teams in the SEC are Vandy and Texas, right? And like I'm saying, Texas has to beat Georgia and A&M, right, remaining on the year. And Vandy lost to Alabama already. So I just think that even if they lose, Bama's still one of the top 12 teams.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So I think we're all going with Bama minus 5.5 here. Any other thoughts before we wrap up our show?
It's going to be a fun week. A lot of playoff implications. And, we're getting down to the wire. It's, mid-November now, almost December, playoff time. Looking forward to it. And, there's always fireworks at the end of the year, especially once we get into conference championships and all that. So